Everybody, welcome back. Change your perspective, change your awareness, change your life. Dr. Michelina AF, hashtag that felon doctor, and I am going to talk to you about deadly sin number 2. I'm going in my own order here, not any particular order. One of the vices you may struggle with, and that is wrath. Wrath is a very interesting one because it's the most heightened form of anger. Now, therapy will tell you, if you've never been to therapy, you don't maybe know this, but I will tell you, because I've been in lots of therapy, anger is a secondary emotion. This always surprises people, but anger is a secondary emotion. It usually is covering up some kind of grief, guilt, loss, despair, frustration. It's those very hurt, obviously, those very fear, those very, very, very deep emotions that are hard to process and hard to regulate. And also, they're hard to act on in ways that are like socially acceptable. And so what we do, especially for men, and so what we do instead is we get angry. We get angry because anger is more tactile. It's more tangible. It's easier to be angry because you feel like you have control over the situation, right? So like for me, like if I'm feeling helpless, I don't want to feel helpless. So I'll be angry because at least if I'm angry, I can do something about that. I can feel something about that anger. So if you are somebody who struggles with wrath, probably not only are you angry, you are not regulated in your anger. And you might be, wrath is an interesting one because it goes 2 ways. It goes very, very hot or like icy rage. Like wrath is really interesting because it's like you might get that psychopathic, and I mean that kind of affectionately, like you've seen someone who's really in wrath in that they are kind of like a Tasmanian devil. They're like throwing shit around. They're like abusive, maybe physically. They're angry. They're yelling. They're popping off. They're very emotionally hot. Very, very fiery, right? That's one way wrath comes out. And probably if you have somebody who is an alcoholic in your family, you might have seen this. Alcohol tends to bring that out in men a lot. But then there's the other side of wrath. That's an icy sort of rage. And it like simmers and it numbs. And it's, I think personally, the more destructive of the two. I think if I'm so angry, I'm icy, watch out. That's honestly, watch out. It's like a, not a slow burn, but it's like a slow, methodical, I think very dangerous, honestly. So wrath has 2 different ways of showing up. Like I said, I picked the ones to start off with first that I'm most familiar with. And I am very familiar with wrath because I feel comfortable in being angry because it makes me feel more control over any of my other emotions. When I was a child, when I was younger, I would flare up. I would be the fiery, passionate anger. I would throw a brush. I would throw a control. Like I would hit things. Like I couldn't regulate my emotions well when I was a child. Honestly, I still struggle with it, if I'm being perfectly honest. And so I've been that fiery, wrathful thing. But I also, once I realized that didn't serve me very well, I got sort of icy rage, methodical. Like I've been punched in the face before, walked away and like smirked at a person while they got pissed off and I didn't, you know? So like, I mean, it's not the best. It's not the best. But hey, just telling you the truth of the matter. I know wrath is one of those things that I can succumb to very quickly. And once I'm in that kind of anger spot, I have to be very careful because if I don't regulate that as soon as possible, it's easy. Wrath is an easy one to feel inside of you when you're aware of it. You can regulate it. Once you regulate it and it dissipates, you then won't lash out at anybody else. You can get good at that. I've gotten very good at that. Wrath is an easy one for me. And so what I will do most often, people say like, oh, you know, well, when I'm angry, I know I'm supposed to like sit still and meditate. No, no. If you're angry, especially if you're that fiery, wrathful anger, You do not want to sit. That's the worst thing you could do. I used to tell my clients all the time, please don't do that to yourself because you're going to want to bounce off the walls. I'm like, if you are actually angry, let that come out, please. Punch a pillow, scream in frustration, go for a run, go for a walk. Please do something constructive, because if you are, go box, like get that kinetic energy going, please. Because if you're just angry and it just festers and you don't do anything to like let it come out, it will go into icy rage. That's what happens. Or it will go into resentment, or it will go into passive aggressiveness. Like it will go somewhere. That anger is not going anywhere. And also let us recall that anger is a secondary emotion. So if you can work through the anger quickly, you can actually get to the root of whatever is actually bothering you. So wrath is one of those that you want to be very mindful of, because it's an obvious one. If you listened to yesterday's when I was talking about pride is not obvious. Not really. Pride is sneaky. Pride is, I would say, probably the hardest one to identify. It is the most subtle. Wrath is not subtle. Wrath is very overt. Pride is covert. Wrath is very obvious, I think. And so if you are somebody who knows anger is a default for you, or that you are more apt or likely to get into anger if something doesn't go your way, or somebody mouths off to you, or you feel out of control of a situation, like if anger or wrath is the way that you cope with things that don't go your way, this is a stronghold you're going to need to work through. Like this is a thing that this video will serve you very well. Because if you are somebody who hasn't really processed a lot of your shit, you'll see that anger goes right in with control and power. So like if you're feeling powerless or you're feeling out of control, more than likely you're going to go into anger if you haven't regulated that or worked through that. And I will say my own power and control issues go so deep that even after working on it for 5 years, I'm still trying to regulate it. Like that's how deep. I have my own deep abandonment wounds. I have my own deep things that I work through. And so even now when things don't go my way, I have to be very mindful and be, talk myself down. Like I'm not the one who's just like, oh, great. Like, let's just go with this flow. I'm not that girl. And you have to know that about yourself, right? Like there are people that are just like, it doesn't even bother. This isn't even an issue for them. This is a non-issue for them. Their wrath is like a fierce kitten. They don't have it. Like everybody has the capacity to get angry, obviously, but like, someone's wrath might be a 99 degrees and some might be like 72. There are just people who they just don't, it's not that they don't care enough to get upset. They're just like, they're not going to let X, Y, or Z thing steal their peace. Like it's just not going to happen. And so, that's a great place to try to get to. For someone that's like that, wrath's not going to be their issue. Maybe something else will. We all struggle with something. Pick your poison. What's your vice of choice? We all have something. There's at least 7 of them, probably more, but like I said, I like to start here. So if anger or wrath is one of yours, or something that you fall victim to, or I don't like to say fall victim, but like you're more susceptible to, we'll say that, more susceptible, then yes, the best thing I would say to do is get yourself into therapy or really therapy is so important. But if you don't want to get yourself into therapy and you want to do some self-work, what triggers your anger, right? Like when do you find yourself, track your anger. Like what gets you angry? When you get home and dinner's not made, when you are stuck in traffic, when you don't have a clean bathroom, when you clean the bathroom and somebody uses it. That used to be me. It used to get me so mad, guys, so mad. When things don't go your way, when plans change, it could be anything, right? Track your triggers if you want to start moving through and working through this anger. I'm saying this because I've done this and it does help. It absolutely does. I think get your ass in therapy. But if that's not something that you want to do, then track your triggers, start being more aware, and just remember that anger is a secondary emotion. So yes, you fall susceptible to it because you're more inclined to potentially be angry, but you can work through it just like anything. So hope that's helpful. Hope this series is interesting to you. I'm enjoying bringing it to you. If you like what you're hearing, like, subscribe, tell your friends, comment below, and we'll grow the channel. And if you are ready to take some aligned action acornsandoaks.bhx.tv has some courses there for you, and I will see you guys next time.